Welcome to Deathly Honest, the podcast where we get real about the parts of life we often avoid: aging, death, and grief. Here, we strip away the cliches, drop the euphemisms, and dive into the truths most people keep at arm's length. This isn't just a place for somber reflections. It's a raw, profound, and sometimes darkly humorous exploration of the journey we all face. Whether it's tackling the messy emotions that come with loss, confronting the fears around mortality, or finding a laugh in life's most challenging transitions, Deathly Honest is here to make these conversations easier, one episode at a time. So grab your favorite beverage, a box of tissues, and your most beloved comfort item, and let's get deathly honest together. Hi everyone, welcome to Deathly Honest. I'm Kelli Lyles. I am a grief counselor and gerontologist, and it's been a couple of months since I have recorded an episode, which sort of surprises me because I knew October was coming and I thought I'm just going to wait and see when it feels like I want to record in October. And I sort of thought it was going to happen at the beginning of the month. And here we are on the 21st. I don't know when you will be listening to this. It might not be until November, but it is October 21st. And if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, you have heard me talk about October. It is the month that both my parents died. And I often say that I could be stuck in a well somewhere and I would know it was October. I simply feel October in my bones. And this October has been no different. However, the one thing that has been very different this October is baseball. And I believe I've brought up in the past how much I love baseball. It is very nostalgic for me. Baseball takes me back to a time in my childhood where I often say that there's a lot of innocence and parents never die. And I've been going to Seattle Mariners games since I was 8 years old in 1977 when they first came to Seattle. And I may have said this on a previous episode, but I always share my experiences as a young kid. We lived north of Seattle. And so our trip to Seattle for a Mariners game involved driving to the next town over and catching the Amtrak and taking the Amtrak to Seattle. And we would go downtown and eat, if you know anything about Seattle, we would go down and eat at Ivar's on the waterfront. And then we would go feed the seagulls before we knew it was really bad to feed seagulls. And then we would walk over to the Kingdom and buy tickets at the ticket window, and we would have really good seats. We usually sat somewhere on the first baseline, very close to the field, and there would be no one sitting around us. I could see people in other sections, but there were very few people around us. The vendors knew us. One of the particular vendors, I always got a chocolate malt. And one of the particular vendors just knew that about me, and they often came by and basically handed me the chocolate malt without us having to wave them over. And my mom was the big baseball fan in our family, and she gave both my brother and I the love of baseball. My dad enjoyed baseball, but it wasn't the same as it was for my mom. And she taught me how to keep score at a game. We always had to get a program so that she could keep score. I'm not sure that I could probably still do it today. I haven't done it in a long time, but I probably could pick it up pretty easily. And I knew all the players' names every year, and it was a fun time as a kid, and it was one of the few times that I got to see my mom just really be happy. And not that my mom wasn't a happy person, but my mom was living a life that was not the life she anticipated for herself. And so to see her at a baseball game when she was just enjoying something that she really loved, I think as a young kid, I was very aware of how different she was. And I think baseball just gave me that ability to see my mom laugh and have fun. And it gave me the freedom to laugh and have fun. And I have loved baseball since then. So we are in the 49th Seattle Mariners season. And this season was particularly, it was extra fun. We just lost Game 7 last night in the American League Championship Series. And so today is the first day without baseball. Oh, and I can feel like the tears coming up as I'm saying this. I usually, being a Mariners fan, generally means we don't make the playoffs. And I have a very normal ritual that I have every year. I put aside the last game of the year on my calendar and I make sure I don't plan anything else for that day. And it is sort of a holiday in my life. And I want to watch the game on TV. I want to experience my announcers who I love. And I want to be able to say goodbye to the team at the end of the game. And I prepare for it. I know what it's going to feel like at the end of that game. I know that I'm going to be sad. I know that I'm going to grieve the end of the baseball season. That normally happens sometime in late September. This year, we have been in the playoffs. It is October 21st, so they played until October 20th. And it was a weird experience all the way through October because it was still baseball. But playoff baseball is different than regular season baseball. And I think that's why I really love baseball, is that there are 162 games a year. And so you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And they don't all feel high stakes. There are high stakes games over the course of the year, but they don't all feel high stakes. Playoff ball feels all high stakes. So it wasn't, although I was excited and I was hopeful that this would finally be the year that the Mariners made it to the World Series, which they have never done yet. And we hear over and over out here how the Seattle Mariners, the only team that have never been to the World Series. It was still different. I couldn't watch the TV broadcasting. I could not listen to national announcers. So I would have the TV on mute, and I would listen to our local radio station with my announcers, the people I love. But it was stressful. I couldn't just sit and watch. I did a lot of cleaning my house. I've been joking today that in protest, I'm not going to clean my kitchen until spring training, but that's not going to happen. But there's a part of me that sort of feels like I've done a lot of cleaning my kitchen over the last couple of weeks. So yesterday, when the season ended, I want to say sort of abruptly, even though it wasn't. It was Game 7. We took both the American League Division Series to the last game, which ended in 15 innings in very Mariner style, but we won that one. And then we took the American League Championship Series to 7 games, which I don't think anybody had really anticipated, at least not in the national media. The Toronto Blue Jays are an incredible team, and we kept up with them. And last night, in sort of typical Mariners fashion, we lost in a very heartbreaking way with a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 7th inning that we just could not catch up to. And we were ahead 3-1, and we lost 4-3. And as those last couple of innings were continuing, and it was becoming clearer and clearer that it was, unless we got really lucky, we were probably not going to win this game. I could start to feel the grief building. And it was this weird moment of not being prepared for it because I didn't know when it was going to end this year. We could have still won last night. And we could be in the World Series right now, which would have been another up to 7 games, right, of baseball. And so it felt abrupt when it ended yesterday. And it all kind of hit me at once. I didn't have the preparation of sitting down and being able to prepare for the last game and saying goodbye to all these players and our announcers and all the things. It just felt very abrupt. And I had a hard time sleeping last night. I woke up sad this morning. It was a very similar feeling to waking up on the mornings after both my parents had died. I didn't sleep much the night that they died. And then I woke up in the morning and my first thought was, oh my gosh, mom's dead, or oh my gosh, dad's dead. And this morning I woke up and it was, baseball's over for the season. And the difference is obviously it's baseball and it will come back. And yet grief is grief. And I guess that's where I'm starting from today, is that idea that, I've talked about it in pretty much every episode of my podcast, but that grief isn't about simply people dying. It's obviously about that as well, but it's about so many other things in our lives. And this feeling of grief, I have felt over baseball. I have felt it over leaving a home and moving to a new home, even a home that I was looking forward to moving to, but leaving behind a home. And I feel deeply. I've always considered, well, not always, as soon as somebody said to me, are you an empath? And I was like, what is an empath? Years and years and years ago. And then I looked it up and started researching and I was like, oh my gosh, there are other people like me that feel deeply. You can call it empath, you can call it highly sensitive person, but I feel deeply for everything. Like I feel deeply for the animals that are out on my deck. I have a squirrel out there right now who looks like it's got a broken leg. And it breaks my heart. Like deeply breaks my heart. So things like baseball, and especially when it holds so much nostalgia for me, when a season ends, there is a large feeling of grief. One, because I know that we're probably never going to come back as the same team we were this year. The off season of baseball is complicated. We lose people, we bring new people. I think we'll have a fairly normal core of people here, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. And so I know that over the course of the season, I will see, they've released somebody or they brought somebody else in, and all of that comes with its own feelings for me. And so, yes, I'm sad that the Mariners did not make it into the World Series. I'm very, very sad about that. But I am grieving my typical end of the baseball season grieving. And it's come so much later in October that it has been very confusing in things when October weather is happening, right? So it's October out here and the leaves have all changed and they're beautiful and we've had a lot more rain, but we've also had some really incredible sunny days like we're having today. And I'm very grateful for that. Having sun today is lovely and important. And my brain hasn't been able to put together October and baseball because it happens so rarely for us. So that's been a little odd anyway. And then on the anniversary of my mom's death on the 13th, it's the first time the Mariners have been playing still since my mom died. And she's been dead for 16 years. So that was really odd. And it was because baseball makes me feel closer to my mom. And so does the day that she died. It's probably the day I feel the closest to her all year long. It was a very fascinating day to be thinking, okay, there's baseball today, and the nostalgia in that, and my relationship to my mother, and my relationship to my mother around baseball, and all of the things that happened on the 13th. The day was fine. It wasn't nothing remarkable about it. I just marked it, and there was some baseball. And this Friday, what's today? Yeah, this Friday is, let me make sure that's right. Wednesdays, the 22nd, Thursdays, the 20th. Yeah, so this Friday is the 10th anniversary of my dad's death. It would have been remarkable if we had still been playing baseball. It's the last big day of the month that really holds stuff for me in October. And when it ends, when October 25th gets here, there is absolutely a sense of breath out of, did it, got through another October. And I'm not a big fan of November through February either, besides the fact that I have a kid who has a January birthday, which is so great because it does give a break in here. But I'm just not the biggest fan of those months. They're dark, and I think I may have mentioned in another podcast episode that I can no longer drive in the dark because I don't have any depth perception, and it is pretty dangerous for me to be driving in the dark. And so daylight savings time is next weekend, and that means it's going to start getting dark here closer and closer to 4:30, I believe once we hit December 21st and winter solstice, we are dark at 4:20, and that's as late as it gets, or as early as it gets, I guess, as the case may be. But 4:20 is really early. And it's not light until, about 8 o'clock in the morning. And so it very much limits my ability. It limits my freedom, really, is what it limits. And there's some grief in that for me. So there's a lot that happens at this time of year as far as my feelings and different grief emotions that pop up. And so I guess all that to say, I woke up this morning and it was such a familiar emotion. And I listened to a couple of podcasts that I normally listen to, and I understand people are angry. I'm not angry at all. I'm grieving. And there is a little part of me that feels as though maybe if we would all just allow ourselves to go, oh, I think this is grief. And I'm not saying other people haven't said it, because I have heard other people say it too. But to hear people get really angry, and I think, again, I'm probably repeating myself, but anger is really a masking emotion for pain, for fear. And this is a lot of pain. And I believe it's a lot of grief. And so anger is a more acceptable emotion than grief as far as we want to feel. We know how to feel anger more than we know how to feel grief. I know how to feel grief, and this is very much grief. I am sitting in it. I don't like it. Nobody likes to sit in grief. Maybe some people do, but it's not pleasant, and it's hard. So it's easier to be angry. I am of the belief system that if we could all just acknowledge the things that we're grieving and actually grieve out loud, that there would maybe be a lot less anger in the world. I have some feelings about political stuff happening in the world right now as well, but I'm not going to get into that today because I don't want to mix political stuff with baseball. Maybe in a future podcast. But October holds so much grief for me. So it makes sense that baseball is adding into that this year. And the other thing that I very much feel, that I don't know that everybody feels, is that I feel the collective grief that all the Seattle Mariners fans are feeling today. And even more so, all of the players and the coaches and the staff at the Mariners. Nobody on that team wanted to lose. Nobody was up there trying to lose. I've seen a lot of discussion about why did our coach make the decisions he made, or why did a player, strike out, and that people need to do better, and all of these things. And yet none of us are behind the scenes. None of us know what's going on. And it's easy to be an armchair coach. It's easy to say, this person who gets paid all this money should always hit a home run. Not that anybody's actually saying that, but it feels sometimes like people are saying, these guys get paid so much money, they should be hitting. Baseball's a really hard sport. And I can only imagine how they're all feeling today. Now, are they going to go on vacation now and they finally get some time off? It's a long, long season. Sure, but this is going to sit with them. And most of these players could be my children. They are young men in their 20s and 30s who, some of them have young families. I'm just going to say it because I've been saying it for so long, but Josh Naylor, our incredible first baseman, who I absolutely adore, his wife had a baby a couple of weeks ago. And he basically took a day off, flew to Arizona, was there for the birth, and then immediately went, I think flew to Detroit so that he could play some more in the ALDS. And every time I see him, I think, he has a brand new baby at home. His first baby. And he hasn't been able to be there. So does he get to go home and be with his baby? Yes. Which is incredibly joyful and amazing. And this season also has to be disappointing and hard in so many emotions. And I just think about all of them. I think about our incredible catcher, Cal, and how he had this amazing MVP year. And I know this isn't how he wanted it to end. And I just hope that all of them have their own therapists or their own mental health people or people around them who keep them grounded. And I think most of them do. But this is hard. And what I'm feeling today, I feel like, is just a small amount of what the players actually have to be feeling and what our coaches have to be feeling. And so I feel that too. I very much feel, gosh, what is everybody else feeling? What are other fans feeling? What, I read about people in tears. I can't get too emotional about the people that are angry because I feel like, again, maybe they just need to acknowledge that there's some grief in this. But I'm the grief girl, right? So it's been an interesting October. And normally it revolves so much around my parents' deaths. And there's also a really amazing anniversary in October that it's the anniversary of when my relationship with my husband began. And it's been 20 years this year. And that we celebrated that this year. And that was amazing. And I'm grateful that I have that day kind of in early October to start the month. But yeah, it's a complicated month for me in so many ways. The deaths of my parents, the end of summer, the end of baseball, more dark is coming. And there's just so many feelings for me this month. And I really thought I was going to do a podcast episode about this much, much earlier. But I've been waiting for that moment that says, oh, now the time to talk about it. So it was today, and it makes sense because of what happened last night with baseball. So I didn't expect this whole entire episode to be about baseball, but it has been for the most part, which is fascinating in and of itself, right? Because October is generally about my parents and the anniversary of their deaths. And this October got changed up a little because of baseball. And yet baseball brings with it its own nostalgia for me and its own grief. So it's just been a fascinating month of feelings. And I would imagine that most people have different times in their lives like this that speak to them over so many different ways, right? Things that are nostalgic to you. And I believe there are people who find the holidays to be really nostalgic and also full of grief. I probably do feel that, and I've turned it into kind of I don't really like the holidays kind of girl. But I think that people probably have this in the midst of summer, right? When there's memories of really fun times with family or as a child, or, that we feel this stuff all the time. Mine just is very concentrated in October. And it's the 21st. There's 10 more days of October, which ends with Halloween, which I really, really don't like. I'm sorry for all of you who love Halloween. It's just not my day. But that's okay. I'll get through that too. And then we move on to daylight savings time and Thanksgiving, and I have another kid's birthday in November, and Christmas and New Year's and birthdays, and then February rolls around and that brings baseball back. And so I'll do these next few months. They'll probably go really fast. And also, there's a lot of feelings around them for me. And maybe that's what this is all about, is just feeling feelings, because that's who I am. I also have to figure out new clothes to wear because I have been wearing Mariners jerseys for the last couple of months. So now I got to figure out, what do I wear? What clothes do I wear? I did just clean out my closet last weekend. Also while, I believe, listening to a Mariners game. So, yeah, I think if you've listened to this podcast enough, you know that I just wing it on these episodes. I never really know where they're going to go. And I didn't expect to talk for half an hour about baseball, but I think that also speaks to how enormous it is in my life and how we can grieve over so many different things. And for some people, baseball isn't your thing. Maybe it's some other sport, right, that holds the nostalgia for you. And some people are just starting a season. Like my husband's a wrestling coach, and we're just closing in on the beginning of wrestling season. And that's his fun, exciting time, is all the way through the winter. And so he gets to enjoy that. I have my own complicated relationship with wrestling season. So, yeah. I am going to let myself feel all of these feelings. And I'm going to grieve the end of an incredible, amazing baseball season for the Seattle Mariners. We are the third best team in all of Major League Baseball this year. It's incredible. And I love this team. I love these players. I've loved every player that's ever been on this team, and that will continue for me. I will always love the Seattle Mariners. And if they never get into the World Series before I die, I'll be okay. But I'd really like them to. But it doesn't matter because I will love them forever, because what they bring such an enormous amount of joy to my life. And I will miss them this off season. And I'm going to miss our announcers because that is also changing against my will. We've lost the way we will listen to Mariners games on the TV. And I'm grieving over that too. And then that just digs into change and how so much in life changes against our will. And there's grief in that. Yeah. So today I'm going to feel it. And this Friday will be the last big moment in October history for me, for another October. And I will manage my way through yet another one. And we'll just keep moving on. And the holidays are coming, and I don't know about all of you, but yes, the holidays bring up a lot of grief for a lot of people. And I often joke that I should just be open all day on Thanksgiving and on Christmas in my office and just have drop-in appointments because, boy, family time in the holidays can bring a lot of stuff up with it. But that's for a later episode. So I don't know if you're a baseball fan, if you happen to be listening to this as a baseball fan or a fan of some other sport or event that has a beginning and an end. But if you are a baseball fan and you're not a Los Angeles Dodgers or a Toronto Blue Jays fan who are still playing, but probably won't be by the time you hear this, I'm thinking of all of you today as baseball comes to an end again, as it does every year. And that means there will be a beginning again next year. And I'm thinking about all of you who are just starting a sports season and are on the plus side and the upside of that, because there will be an ending for you too. And there's probably a lot of beginnings and endings happening in everyone's lives that have nothing to do with sports. And that's really where this goes, right? Is beginnings and endings often come with grief. So I think I've rambled enough about baseball today and about October, but it did feel important to have an October episode. Hopefully I'll do another episode a little bit faster than the last 2 months, but we'll see, because I just sort of wait to see when the universe goes, okay, today's the day to record an episode. So I'm thinking of all of you who are possibly grieving anything right now. Your own endings, people in your life. You're selling a house, you're buying a new house. Your kids are growing up and moving out. Whatever it is, I'm thinking about all of you, and I'm hoping that you're all being kind to yourself, being tender with these feelings, and allowing yourself the ability to feel them, because I do think that is incredibly important. Oh, and one thing I want to say, I did do a 4-hour webinar with Frances Weller and Anderson Cooper in September, and it was so beautiful. Those two together are just, I don't even have the words for it. It was lovely. I admire Anderson Cooper so much for the grieving he is doing out loud that is complicated for him, and yet he's doing it, and I'm so impressed with him. And I think he's making such a change for so many people. And of course, if you've followed me ever, you know I am a big Frances Weller fan. And one of the things Frances did during this webinar was his one of his grief rituals that I've heard it many times. I've taken part in it in the past, and it just hit me different this time. And it's simply the idea of taking a stone, speaking your sorrow into the stone, and putting it into a bowl of water. And then that bowl of water gets filled up with other people's stones that, he does it in a community ritual kind of thing, right? But you can do it solo by just doing it yourself into a rock, put the rock into water, take the water out and water some tree or plant, and then take the rock and either put it back into the ground, or even better, taking it out to a location that will hear what I plan to do is Puget Sound, or ideally the ocean, where all of these rocks will at some point join together again. And if you're putting them into the ocean, they will reconnect with the grief of people from all around the world. And it becomes this communal grief. And so in my office now, I have 2 bowls, one bowl of rocks and one bowl of water. And so if you are listening to this and you are someone who has come into my office or plans to come into my office, you can choose to do this in the office, and I will take that water and water the plants out in front of my office. And then I am going to take those rocks to the ocean periodically. But you could do it on your own. And that is how we do this grief together. So if you're a Mariners fan that's listening to this and you want to take a rock and speak your grief into that rock and put it into a bowl of water, and then take that rock out to Puget Sound or the ocean, it will meet mine at some point. And that communal grief is so important and so powerful, because we're all going to experience grief in our lifetime. Some people like me experience it a lot. Others don't experience it as much. But that ritual part of it is so powerful. So just a little something extra to add on to this in case you want an action item. And I am still making my way through In the Absence of the Ordinary, Frances Weller's book. If you follow me on Instagram at Kelli Lyles Grief Guide, I've been doing weekly passages from the book because I think it is an incredible book. And still on the YouTube channel, there are free yoga videos for you on yin and restorative videos for grief and anxiety. All that will be linked in the show notes. And yeah, I'm out here grieving along with you. But if there's anything I can do to help support you in your grief, that is what this podcast is about. That's what my work is about. You're always welcome to reach out to me. And you can do that through Instagram. You can, I think through Instagram you can get all of the information you need to get to reach out to me. But that's what I'm here for, as a resource for people. So please feel free to reach out at any time if there's anything I can do to help support you in your grief, or you just need to share a grief story. I love grief stories. And if you just feel like you need to share one and don't know who to say it to, it's me. Say it to me. So however I can support you, please let me know. And again, I'm wishing you all the best available end of October. It may be November by the time you hear this, so the best available November. And we will talk more soon. Take good care.